You say it every single morning, maybe before your feet even touch the floor. You say it at work. You say it to your children. You say it to yourself when something goes wrong. And every single time you say it, you feed something you cannot see. There are 5 words, common, ordinary, everyday words, that ancient Gnostic texts say were deliberately planted in human language by the Archons, not metaphorically planted, architecturally planted, wired into your speech patterns so deeply that you repeat them without thinking. And here's what no one tells you. Jesus, in the Gospel of Thomas, in the texts they removed from your Bible, specifically warned his disciples about the power of these words. He didn't just say, watch what you do. He said, watch what you say. Because your words are not just sounds, they are keys. And some of them open doors you don't want opened. In the next 20 minutes, you're going to learn which 5 words they are, where they came from, and, most importantly, what to say instead. But first, I need to show you something that changes everything about how you understand language itself. You were taught that words are neutral, just tools, labels we stick on things, symbols with no power of their own. Your teachers said it. Linguistics professors confirmed it. Dictionaries reinforced it. Words only mean what we agree they mean. That was the lesson. But what if that lesson was itself a form of spiritual misdirection? This idea that language is just neutral code became dominant in Western thinking around the 17th century. The Enlightenment needed it. Science needed it. If words were just arbitrary symbols, then religious language could be dismissed. Spiritual speech could be reduced to poetry. Nothing sacred, nothing dangerous. Very convenient for those who wanted to separate you from your own spiritual power. But here's what doesn't add up. If words have no intrinsic power, why does every major spiritual tradition on earth treat spoken language as sacred? The Vedic tradition called it Nada Brahma, the universe's sound. The Hebrew Kabbalah teaches that God created reality through spoken letters. The Gospel of John opens not with an action, not with a birth, but with a word. In the beginning was the Word. These traditions never met each other. They developed on opposite sides of the planet, and they all arrived at the same conclusion. Words are not neutral, and the science is starting to catch up. In 2005, Dr. Masaru Emoto published peer-reviewed research showing that water crystals change their molecular structure in response to spoken words. Positive words produced geometrically perfect crystals. Negative words produced fractured, distorted structures. Your body is 70% water. Read that again. So, if words are just neutral symbols, why does your nervous system respond differently to the word love versus the word threat? Why does your cortisol spike at certain verbal patterns even when you know there is no physical danger? Because something about language goes deeper than meaning. And the Gnostic texts, the ones hidden in jars in the Egyptian desert for 1,600 years until 1945, had a name for who designed it that way. So, if neutral language was never the truth, what is? There is a concept the Gnostic teachers called Archonic imprinting. The idea is this: the Archons, the entities described in Gnostic cosmology as false rulers, as spiritual parasites feeding on human consciousness, do not primarily control you through force. They control you through language, specifically through programming certain words into daily human speech that, when repeated, reinforce states of separation, fear, scarcity, and submission. Words that sound completely normal, words that seem helpful, even virtuous. but which carry, embedded in their vibrational and psychological structure, a signature that keeps you disconnected from the divine spark, what the Gnostics called the monad that lives inside you. Jesus addressed this directly in the Gospel of Thomas, Logion 39, when he said, "The Pharisees and the scribes have taken the keys of knowledge and hidden them. They themselves have not entered, nor have they allowed those who wish to enter." He wasn't only talking about doors to buildings, he was talking about access to inner knowing. And the keys they stole, some of them are words. Think about it this way. If you wanted to control a population for thousands of years without physical chains, what would you do? You would build the chains into their language, into the words they reach for automatically, into the phrases they teach their children without thinking. And this is not something I invented. The Nag Hammadi Library, discovered in 1945, translated and published by scholars including Elaine Pagels at Princeton, contains multiple texts where Gnostic teachers warn specifically about language as a control mechanism. The Apocryphon of John describes the Archons shaping the material world, including the structures of human thought and speech to keep souls trapped in what they called the Kenoma, the void of unconscious living. Modern neuroscience calls it something different. They call it cognitive framing. The words we use don't just describe our reality, they construct it. Stanford researcher James Pennebaker spent 30 years studying how language shapes psychology and published his findings in 2011. His conclusion, function words, the small, common words we use automatically, reveal and reinforce our deepest mental states far more powerfully than content words. The Gnostics knew this 2,000 years before Stanford confirmed it, and I'm going to prove it, with history, with science, with specific texts, and with an authority so unexpected it will make you rethink everything, starting with the first word. And this one is going to be uncomfortable because you said it today. Let's go through them. Word 1, can't. Not the word itself, the reflexive, unconscious use of it. In the Gospel of Thomas, Logion 48, Jesus says, "If two make peace with each other in a single house, they will say to the mountain, 'Move away,' and it will move." The entire Gnostic framework is built on the premise that the divine spark within you has access to reality-altering power. The Archons' primary project, according to texts like the hypostasis of the Archons, is keeping you convinced that you can't. Not through argument, through repetition. A 2019 study from the University of Pennsylvania tracked 10,000 people over 12 months and found that individuals who used can't language rather than won't language showed 34% lower rates of goal completion and 47% higher rates of learned helplessness. I can't do this removes agency. I won't do this restores it. One word tells you you're powerless, the other reminds you that you're choosing. The Archonic agenda in Gnostic theology is to make you forget you are choosing. Language is their primary tool. Word 2, just, as in, I'm just a regular person. It's just the way things are. I just work here. This word, used in the diminishing sense, is what Gnostic scholars call a Kenoma marker, a linguistic signal of self-reduction. The tripartite tractate, one of the Nag Hammadi texts, describes how the Archons maintain control specifically by convincing divine souls to minimize their own nature, to see themselves as small, temporary, unremarkable. Just is the word that does that minimization automatically. Jesus, in the Gospel of Thomas, Logion 3, says this explicitly: "If those who lead you say to you, 'Look, The kingdom is in the sky, then the birds will precede you. Rather, the kingdom is inside you and outside you. You are not just anything. The Gnostic teaching and modern neuroscience agrees on the psychological dimension is that you carry within you the monad, the uncreated divine light. And every time you say, "I'm just," you are repeating the Archons' lie about your own nature. Word 3. Deserve. This one is subtle because it sounds positive. I deserve better. You don't deserve this. They got what they deserved. But deserve is a transactional word. It implies that reality operates on a merit system, that good things come to those who earn them. That suffering is proportional to failure. And this framework, the Gnostic teachers saw it clearly, is one of the Archons' most sophisticated traps. Why? Because it replaces grace with transaction. In the Gospel of Philip, one of the suppressed Nag Hammadi texts, the author writes that the divine does not give according to merit, it gives according to nature. The monad does not calculate what you've earned, it extends itself unconditionally, because that is what light does. When you use deserve language, you are unconsciously agreeing with the Archonic premise that you must qualify for your own spiritual wholeness. Dr. Brené Brown's research at the University of Houston, 12 years, thousands of interviews, found that the single clearest marker of people with low wholeness scores was the belief that love and belonging must be earned. Her word for that belief: unworthiness. Deserve is unworthiness with a positive mask. Word 4. Impossible. In 325 AD, the Council of Nicaea made a very specific decision. Not just which books to include in the Bible, they also decided which framework of reality would define Christianity going forward. And they chose the framework in which miracles are rare, exceptional, available only to saints and prophets, not to ordinary people. But the Gospel of Thomas, which was excluded, contains 114 sayings of Jesus, and in many of them extraordinary transformation is presented not as exceptional, but as the natural state of an awakened person. Logion 106. When you make the two into one, you will become sons of man, and when you say, "Mountain, move away," it will move. Logion 77. I am the light that is over all things. Split a piece of wood. I am there. Lift up the stone, and you will find me there. This is not a God who exists outside of you, rationing miracles. This is a living light that permeates everything, including you. The word impossible forecloses reality before it's been tested. It is, in the Gnostic framework, a direct product of Archonic programming, the belief that the material world has hard limits that your divine nature cannot touch. And here's the unexpected authority. The CIA project Stargate, declassified in 1995 after 20 years of government funding, demonstrated statistically significant evidence of remote viewing. Human consciousness accessing information across space and time with zero physical mechanism. The study was run from 1972 to 1995. The government spent $20 million on it. The results were reviewed by the American Institutes for Research and confirmed to be above chance at odds of 10 to the 20th power. The word impossible had to be retired. The government just didn't tell you. Word 5. Normal. This is the most dangerous word on this list because it sounds like stability, like safety, like sanity. But the Gnostic tradition is explicit. What this world calls normal is the konoma, the dream state of unconscious existence that the Archons maintain. The second treatise of the great Seth, a Nag Hammadi text, describes the world system as a kind of consensual hallucination, held in place not by physical force, but by agreement, by the collective assumption that this is just how things are. Normal is that agreement put into a single word. Every time you seek normal in your relationships, your health, your spiritual life, you are choosing the ceiling over the sky. In 2017, Harvard psychologist Ellen Langer published research showing that patients who were given explicit permission to question what is normal for their bodies showed measurable physiological improvements, including reduced blood pressure and improved vision, within weeks, without medication, just by suspending the assumption of normalcy. She called it mindful uncertainty. The Gnostics called it gnosis. Everything points the same way. Stop for a moment. Look at what we've assembled here. Ancient Gnostic texts, suppressed for 1,600 years, warned about language as a spiritual control mechanism. Modern neuroscience confirmed that the words we use shape our neurological reality. Behavioral research proved these specific word patterns reduce human agency and well-being. And classified government programs demonstrated that human consciousness exceeds the impossible, all pointing the same direction. So why are you still being taught that words are neutral? Why are the Gnostic Gospels still not in your Bible? Why did the government run a $20 million consciousness study for 20 years and then file it quietly? The answer is not beautiful. Who benefits from your limited speech? To understand why this is hidden, follow the power. Who benefits from you saying, "I can't"? Who benefits from you seeing yourself as just a regular person? Who benefits from you measuring your worth by what you deserve? Every institution that requires your compliance, every system that requires you to believe you are small. The pharmaceutical industry generates $1.48 trillion per year, much of it treating conditions rooted in chronic stress, the biological output of exactly the can't, impossible, normal thought patterns these words reinforce. The self-help industry generates $40 billion per year, selling solutions to a powerlessness problem that could be addressed in part by changing 5 words. And institutional religion? When the Council of Nicaea removed the Gnostic texts in 325 AD, they didn't just edit a book. They created a spiritual framework where access to the divine requires intermediaries, priests, institutions, authorities. If you knew, really knew in your bones that the monad lives inside you, that the kingdom is within you, as Jesus said in Thomas, that your words carry actual creative power, you wouldn't need the intermediary. That's not a conspiracy theory, that's a business model. And how do they maintain it? First, the suppressed texts are kept academic. The Gospel of Thomas is in university libraries, but it's not in the pew. It's not in Sunday school. Elaine Pagels won the National Book Award for writing about it, but her books are in the religion section of bookstores, not in the hands of ordinary believers. Second, anyone who speaks about these things is labeled fringe, New Age, unserious. It's the oldest silencing mechanism in the world, not censorship, but ridicule. Third, the language of limitation is taught to children before they can question it. You can't do that. That's not normal. Be realistic. Wired in by age 7, reinforced for the rest of their lives. And who pays the price? You do. Paying for systems to manage the suffering that suppressed knowledge would dissolve. Living inside the word normal when something infinite lives inside you. I know this is difficult to hear. I was angry when I first understood it, but anger is only useful if it becomes action. And now you have the information. So, let's talk about what to do with it. 3 steps to reclaim your speech. Enough history. Here are 3 practical steps you can begin today. No special equipment, no ceremony, just attention. Step 1. The 48-hour word fast for the next 48 hours. Catch yourself every time you say one of the 5 words in their limiting form. You don't have to eliminate them perfectly. Just notice. Write them down, a simple note on your phone. Every "I can't", every "I'm just", every "that's impossible". Why does this work? Because the archonic power of these words depends entirely on unconsciousness. The moment you observe the pattern, it begins to lose its grip. This is precisely what Jesus meant in Thomas Logion 5. Know what is in front of your face, and what is hidden from you will be disclosed. Awareness is the first act of freedom. Start here, today. Step 2. The Gnostic reframe. For each of the 5 words, install a replacement that carries a different vibrational and psychological signature. Instead of "I can't", say "I'm choosing not to", or "I haven't yet". Instead of "I'm just", simply remove the word. Not "I'm just a person who", but "I'm someone who". Instead of "deserve", try "I'm open to" or "I'm ready for". Shift from transaction to receptivity. Instead of "impossible", say "I don't yet understand how". It keeps the door open. Instead of "normal", try "usual" or "familiar". Different word, no ceiling. This step takes about 2 weeks before it becomes natural. Most people who committed to it reported noticing a shift in their internal states within the first 5 days. The Gnostic teachers called this metanoia, not repentance in the churchy sense, but a literal change in the direction of the mind. Step 3. The Logion 77 practice. This one is for those who want to go deep. Jesus said in Thomas 77, "I am the light that is over all things. Split a piece of wood, I am there. Lift up the stone, and you will find me there." This is not poetry. The Gnostic teachers understood it as instruction. The divine light, the monad, is not somewhere else. It is in ordinary moments, in the wood, in the stone, in your morning coffee, in your breath. The practice. Once per day, choose a completely mundane moment. Washing dishes, walking to your car, making tea, and speak to it differently. Not dramatically, just internally. The light is here. I am here. This is the antidote to all 5 words at once. It is the practice of remembering what the Archonic speech is designed to make you forget. It sounds simple. It is simple. But do it for 21 days and tell me what you notice. 2 common errors. Error 1. Trying to eliminate the words perfectly and fast. This creates self-judgment, which generates the same energetic state as the original words. Go slowly. Observe without punishment. Error 2. Treating this as purely psychological, a self-help technique. The Gnostic context matters. When you understand why these words carry this specific imprint, the shift is deeper and more durable. Keep the spiritual frame. In the first week, you'll notice the patterns everywhere. In your own speech, in the media, in conversations around you. That's not discouragement. That's the awareness beginning to work. By the second week, the replacements start to feel natural, less effortful. By week 4, people around you may comment that something seems different about you. They won't be able to name it, but you will know. This is not magic. This is the monad, the divine light within you, beginning to have less interference from the signal blocking it. Let's close the loop. You came in thinking words were neutral. You discovered that the Gnostic texts, suppressed for 1,600 years, found in the Egyptian desert in 1945, specifically identify language as an Archonic control mechanism. You heard the 5 words can't, just, deserve, impossible, normal, and why each one carries the specific signature of separation from your divine nature. You saw the evidence, ancient tradition, neuroscience, behavioral research, and a classified CIA program, all pointing the same direction. You understood who benefits from keeping you inside limited language and what it costs you. And you have 3 practical steps you can begin before this video ends. In 20 minutes, you learned what most people will never be taught. You are not the same person who clicked on this video. You now belong to a smaller group, those who are awake to the architecture of the cage and have the keys to begin dismantling it from the inside. The question is no longer whether this is true. The question is, what will you do with it? And this is only the beginning. There is far more about the Archons' relationship to language, specifically how they use naming, how the Gnostic practice of speaking the light words works, and what the Gospel of Philip says about the power of the sacred name, that I couldn't fit here. If you want me to go deeper on that, leave the word logos in the comments. That word will tell me this community is ready for the next level. If this video reached something in you, share it with one person who is ready to hear it, not to convince them, just to plant a seed. The algorithm rewards that. More importantly, so does something deeper. And subscribe if you haven't yet, not for the numbers, but because what comes next continues this thread in ways that build on what you've just understood. The Archons built their control into the words you say every day. Now you know which ones. Use that. See you in the next one.